Trust the road, you're safe here. That's what my father told me before I left the city. Minutes later, 3 wolves pulled me from a car crash that should have killed me. I didn't know one of them was my fated mate, watching me for years. Trust the road, Arya, you're safe here. That's what her father had told her before she left the city that morning. But Arya Thorne would learn that safety was an illusion, and that the most dangerous roads weren't the ones covered in ice, but the ones that led you straight into destiny. The deer appeared out of nowhere. One moment Arya was singing along to the radio, her hands steady on the wheel as she navigated the winding mountain pass. The next, a massive buck stood frozen in her headlights, its eyes reflecting pure terror back at her. She yanked the wheel hard to the right. The car spun, tires screaming against asphalt, turned treacherous by evening frost. The guardrail came up fast, too fast, and then there was nothing but air and the sickening lurch of free fall. Arya's scream died in her throat as the vehicle tumbled down the embankment, metal shrieking, glass shattering, the world becoming a violent kaleidoscope of earth and sky and pain. The car finally stopped rolling, settling upside down against a cluster of pines. Arya hung suspended by her seatbelt, blood dripping from a gash on her forehead into her eyes. Her ribs screamed with every breath. Through the spiderwebbed windshield, she could see darkness, the kind of complete suffocating darkness that only existed in the deep wilderness. And then she heard the growling. It came from everywhere at once, low and rumbling, vibrating through the crushed metal of her prison. Arya's breath came in sharp, panicked gasps. She fumbled for her phone, but it was gone, thrown somewhere in the chaos. Her fingers found the seatbelt release instead, and she dropped hard onto the roof of the car, now the floor crying out as pain exploded through her left ankle. The growling grew closer. Through the shattered driver's side window, she saw them. 3 pairs of eyes gleaming in the moonlight. Wolves. Massive, far larger than any wolf should be. One set of eyes burned amber, another glowed silver, and the third were the color of midnight itself. Black shot through with gold. Arya's heart hammered against her broken ribs. She'd read the statistics. Wolf attacks on humans were rare, but 3 wolves surrounding a helpless, bleeding woman, she was prey now. The amber-eyed wolf approached first, its enormous head lowering to peer into the wreckage. Arya scrambled backward, ignoring the agony in her ankle until her back hit the passenger side door. There was nowhere left to go, but the wolf didn't attack. Instead, it made a sound not quite a whine, not quite a growl, almost concerned. The creature's massive paw scraped at the bent metal of the doorframe, and Arya realized with dawning shock that it was trying to widen the opening. "What are you doing?" she whispered, her voice hoarse from screaming. The silver-eyed wolf joined the first, and together they worked at the twisted metal with a coordination that seemed impossible for animals. The sound of groaning steel filled the night air. Behind them, the black and gold-eyed wolf stood perfectly still, watching, guarding. Arya's mind raced through explanations. Shock. She must be in shock. Hallucinating from blood loss. Wolves didn't rescue people. Wolves didn't work together with such obvious intelligence and purpose. Wolves didn't. The doorframe gave way with a final shriek of metal. The amber-eyed wolf's head pushed through the opening, close enough that Arya could feel its breath hot against her frozen skin. Its eyes met hers, and something passed between them, a jolt of recognition that made no sense. The wolf's eyes were too intelligent, too aware, too human. Then it grabbed her jacket in its teeth carefully, so carefully, and began to pull. Arya screamed as her injured ankle dragged across broken glass, but the wolf didn't stop. The moment she was clear of the wreckage, the silver-eyed wolf was there, positioning itself beneath her arm like a crutch. The amber-eyed wolf released her jacket and moved to her other side. Together they lifted her. Arya's vision swam. This couldn't be real. She was being carried by wolves, supported between 2 massive predators as if she weighed nothing. The black and gold-eyed wolf led the way, its dark fur seeming to absorb the moonlight rather than reflect it. "I'm dreaming," she said aloud, her voice cracking. "I'm dying in that car, and this is my brain shutting down." The amber-eyed wolf made that sound again, that almost concerned whine. Its eyes found hers once more. And this time, Arya could swear she saw something in them. An apology, a promise, a desperate need to make her understand something that had no words. They carried her through the forest, moving with purpose down paths Arya couldn't see. Her ankle throbbed, her head spun. Blood continued to drip down her face, leaving a trail behind them. She should be terrified. She should be fighting. But exhaustion and shock were pulling her under like a riptide, and the warmth of the wolves' bodies pressed against hers was the only thing keeping the hypothermia at bay. Time lost meaning. Arya drifted in and out of consciousness, aware only of movement of the steady rhythm of paws against earth, of those 6 eyes that kept checking on her, amber, silver, and black gold, as if her survival mattered more than anything in the world. When she woke again, she was no longer in the forest. Warm firelight danced across wooden walls. She lay on something soft, a bed, an actual bed covered in blankets that smelled of pine and smoke and something wild she couldn't name. Her ankle had been wrapped in clean bandages. The gash on her forehead had been cleaned and covered with gauze. Arya tried to sit up and immediately regretted it as pain shot through her entire body. "Don't move." The voice came from the shadows near the fireplace, male, deep, with a roughness that suggested he didn't speak often. "You're safe, but you're badly hurt." A man stepped into the firelight, and Arya's breath caught. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell past his collar, and eyes that gleamed amber in the flickering light, the same amber she'd seen in the forest. "Who are you?" Arya managed to ask. "Where am I?" "My name is Cade." He moved closer but stopped several feet away, as if afraid of frightening her. "You're in my cabin. My brothers and I found you after your accident." "Your brothers?" Arya's voice was barely a whisper. "The wolves. That was you." Cade's jaw tightened. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "You should rest. We can talk when you're stronger." "No." Arya's hand clutched the blanket. Every instinct screamed that she was in danger, but another part of her, a part she didn't understand, felt safer than she'd ever been. "Tell me the truth. What are you?" Cade's amber eyes met hers, and in them she saw the same desperate need to make her understand that she'd seen in the wolf's gaze. "We're what your kind calls shifters," he said finally. "Werewolves, if you prefer the old term. And you—" He stopped, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. "You shouldn't have survived that crash. You shouldn't be here. But the moment I caught your scent on the wind, I knew. My wolf knew." "Knew what?" Cade's expression was anguished, torn between wonder and what looked like fear. "That you're mine." Chapter 2, The Brothers. Arya's heart stuttered in her chest. "I'm what?" "My mate." Cade's voice was rough, like the word had been dragged from somewhere, deep inside him. "The one the moon chooses for each of us. The one soul in all the world that completes ours." The room tilted. Arya pressed her hand to her forehead, feeling the gauze beneath her fingers, reminding herself that this was real. The crash was real. The wolves, the shifters, were real. And this man, this stranger with amber eyes that haunted something primal in her chest, was claiming she belonged to him. "That's insane," she whispered. "I don't even know you." "I know." Cade's hands remained fisted at his sides, his entire body radiating tension. "I know how this sounds. I know what you must think, but the mate bond doesn't ask permission. It simply is." Before Arya could respond, the cabin door swung open. 2 more men entered, and she recognized them immediately. Not their human faces, but their eyes, silver and black gold. The silver-eyed man was leaner than Cade, with ash-blonde hair and sharp features that might have been beautiful if they weren't set in such hard lines. He carried firewood in his arms, but his gaze went straight to Arya, assessing her like a doctor examining a patient. "She's awake," he said, his voice cool and measured. "Good." Her vitals were concerning. The third man, the one with those impossible black gold eyes, was the largest of them all. His dark hair was pulled back, revealing a face carved from granite and marked with a thin scar across his left cheekbone. He said nothing, but his gaze pinned Arya in place with an intensity that made her breath catch. "My brothers," Cade said, gesturing to each in turn. "Ash, our healer, and Riker, Riker keeps us alive. You were the wolves," Arya said, her voice stronger now despite the fear coursing through her. "All three of you, you pulled me from the car." Ash set the firewood down by the hearth, his movements precise. "Your vehicle was leaking fuel. Another few minutes and it would have ignited. We had no choice. No choice but to reveal yourselves to a human." Arya's mind raced, piecing together implications. "Isn't that dangerous for you?" "I've read stories, legends. Your kind is supposed to stay hidden." Riker finally spoke, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards. "She asks good questions." "Too good," Ash agreed, moving to Arya's bedside. He reached for her wrist and she jerked back instinctively. He paused, holding his hands up in a gesture of peace. "I need to check your pulse. You lost blood. You might be concussed." Arya's eyes darted to Cade, who gave a small nod. Slowly, she extended her arm. Ash's fingers were cool against her skin, professional and detached as he counted her heartbeat. "Elevated," he murmured. "But steady. That's good." He moved to check her pupils next, producing a small flashlight from his pocket. "Follow the light." Arya obeyed, trying not to flinch as the beam swept across her vision. Up close, Ash's silver eyes were striking, pale enough to seem almost colorless in certain light, but shot through with darker threads like cracks in ice. "Concussion is mild," Ash concluded, stepping back. "The ankle is sprained, not broken. The head wound looks worse than it is. Scalp injuries always bleed heavily. You'll heal, given time and rest." "How much time?" Arya asked. "A week, minimum. Possibly 2 before you can walk without assistance." "I can't stay here for 2 weeks." Panic crept into Arya's voice. "I have a job. My apartment. My father will worry when I don't call." "Your phone was destroyed in the crash," Cade interrupted gently, "and the nearest town is 40 miles away. These mountains don't have cell service." Arya's chest tightened. "Then take me to town, to a hospital." "I'll call my father from there, and no hospitals." Riker's voice cut through the room like a blade. He moved closer, his massive frame blocking the firelight and casting shadows across the bed. "The questions would expose us. And you." "Me?" Arya's laugh was bitter. "What does that mean?" Cade moved between Riker and the bed, a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed. "He means that the moment you tell anyone about us, about what we are, you become a target. There are people who hunt shifters, organizations with resources and no mercy. They'd torture you for information, then kill you to tie up loose ends." The words hung in the air like poison. Arya's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "So, I'm a prisoner." "No." Cade's amber eyes blazed. "You're protected. There's a difference." "Is there?" She met his gaze, refusing to look away despite the way her pulse hammered. "Because it sounds like I have no choice. Stay here, keep your secrets, or die." Ash exchanged a glance with Riker. Something passed between them, a silent conversation that ended with Riker's jaw tightening and Ash giving the smallest shake of his head. "The mate bond complicates things," Ash said finally, his clinical tone returning. "Cade's wolf recognized you. That's not something we can ignore. Then help me understand." Arya pushed herself up straighter, ignoring the way her ribs protested. "What does it mean, this bond?" Cade sat down on the edge of a chair near the bed, careful to maintain distance. "It means that my wolf, the animal part of me, has chosen you as its other half. It's not just attraction or love. It's deeper, cellular. My wolf will do anything to protect you, to be near you, to. He stopped abruptly, his hands gripping the chair arms hard enough that the wood creaked. "To what?" Arya pressed. To claim you, Riker finished, his black gold eyes fixed on his brother, to mark you as Pack, as his. Arya's skin prickled. And if I don't want to be claimed? The silence that followed was deafening. Cade's voice when he spoke was hoarse. Then I'll fight my wolf every day for the rest of my life, and you'll be free to go the moment you're healed. I swear it. Something in his tone made Arya's throat tighten. She could hear the truth in his words, but also the cost. This wasn't a game to him. This wasn't about control. He was offering her a choice that would destroy him. Why? She asked softly. Why would you do that? Cade's amber eyes met hers, and in them she saw centuries of loneliness, of waiting, of hoping for something he'd never believed he'd find. Because you deserve to choose your own path, he said, even if that path leads away from me. Ash cleared his throat. She needs rest and food. We can discuss the complications of mate bonds after she's recovered some strength. As if on cue, Arya's stomach growled audibly. Despite everything, the fear, the confusion, the impossibility of her situation, she was starving. Cade stood immediately. I'll make soup. Something easy on your stomach. He left the room quickly, and Arya could swear she saw relief in his expression. Relief to have a task, a purpose, something to do besides sit with the weight of her rejection. Riker lingered by the door, his massive arms crossed. You hurt him. I just met him. Arya shot back, defensive. I didn't ask for any of this. No one asks for their mate. Riker's voice was softer than she expected. But some of us wait lifetimes. Cade has waited longer than most. Before Arya could respond, he left, closing the door behind him with surprising gentleness. Only Ash remained, checking the bandage on her ankle with efficient movements. How long? Arya asked quietly. How long has he been waiting? Ash's silver eyes lifted to meet hers. Cade is 247 years old. In all that time, he's never found his mate. Most of us don't. We live long lives and we live them alone. He finished securing the bandage. Until 3 hours ago, he'd given up hope. The weight of those words settled over Arya like a shroud. 247 years of loneliness, and she was supposed to be the answer? A random woman who'd crashed her car on the wrong mountain road. I don't believe in fate, she said, but her voice wavered. Ash stood, gathering his medical supplies. Fate doesn't require your belief. It simply is. He paused at the door. But for what it's worth, Cade meant what he said. He'll let you go, even if it kills him. Then he was gone, and Arya was alone with the crackling fire and the impossible weight of a choice she'd never wanted to make. Chapter 3. The First Meal. The soup was the best thing Arya had ever tasted. Rich broth, tender vegetables, herbs she couldn't name, but that warmed her from the inside out. Cade had brought it to her on a wooden tray, along with fresh bread and water, in a clay mug. He'd set it down without a word, then retreated to the corner of the room like a wolf unwilling to crowd its injured packmate. Arya ate slowly, aware of his eyes on her. Not predatory, protective, as if he was afraid she might disappear if he looked away. Did you make this? She asked, breaking the silence. Yes. Cade's voice was quiet. Cooking helps me think. It's good. She took another spoonful, savoring the warmth. Really good. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. My mother's recipe. She taught me before. He trailed off, the smile fading. Before what? Before the hunters found our pack. Cade's amber eyes grew distant. I was 17 in human years. They came at dawn with silver bullets and fire. My mother died protecting the young ones. My father died buying us time to run. Arya's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. I'm sorry. It was 230 years ago. But the pain in his voice said that time hadn't healed everything. Ash, Riker, and I were the only ones who survived. We've been running ever since, staying hidden, staying alive. That's why you live out here, Arya said slowly, understanding dawning. In the middle of nowhere, isolation is safety. Cade leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. Humans mean discovery. Discovery means death. Then why save me? The question burst out before Arya could stop it. If I'm such a risk, why not just leave me in the car? Cade's eyes flashed, his wolf rising to the surface. Because you're mine. The word came out as a growl. Then he caught himself, breathing hard. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. No. Arya set down her spoon, meeting his gaze. Don't apologize for being honest, I asked. They stared at each other across the room. In the firelight, Cade looked younger than his centuries, maybe 30 in human years, with strong features and dark hair that fell across his forehead. But his eyes held lifetimes of sorrow. What does it feel like? Arya asked softly. The mate bond? Cade was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw, like breathing after drowning, like finding light after centuries in the dark, like every moment before you was just waiting. He pushed off from the wall, moving closer but still keeping distance between them. My wolf knows you, not just your scent or your face. It knows your soul, and it would tear me apart from the inside to let you go. Arya's heart hammered. But you said you would. I will. The words seemed to cost him. Because forcing you to stay would make me no better than the hunters who took everything from me. You deserve freedom, even if that freedom destroys me. Something cracked in Arya's chest. A hairline fracture in the wall she'd built around herself. This man, this creature who could kill her with one hand, was offering her the choice to leave, to walk away from something he'd waited centuries to find. I don't understand you, she whispered. I don't expect you to. Cade moved to take the tray, but Arya's hand shot out, catching his wrist. The contact was electric. Cade froze, his whole body going rigid. His eyes bled from amber to pure gold wolf eyes, and Arya felt it too. A pull deep in her chest, like a cord connecting them that had been invisible until this moment. Her skin burned where they touched, but not painfully. It felt like recognition. What is that? She breathed. The bond. Cade's voice was strained. Trying to complete itself. Arya should have pulled away, should have broken the contact, but she couldn't. The warmth spreading from his wrist into her palm felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. Then the cabin door slammed open. Ash stood in the doorway, his silver eyes wide with alarm. We have a problem. Cade pulled away from Arya instantly, and the loss of contact felt like tearing. What kind of problem? The kind with guns and tracking equipment. Ash's voice was ice cold. Hunters, 3 miles south and heading this direction. The temperature in the room dropped. Riker appeared behind Ash, already moving with lethal purpose. They must have tracked the crash site, found the blood trail we left bringing her here. Arya's blood ran cold. They're looking for me? They're looking for us. Cade's voice had gone flat, emotionless, the voice of a man preparing for war. You're just the bait that led them here. Guilt crashed over Arya. This is my fault. The accident, the blood. No. Cade's hand cupped her face, the gesture startling in its gentleness. This is what we've always faced. You didn't bring the hunters, Arya. They've been hunting us for centuries. They would have found us eventually. How much time do we have? Riker asked Ash. 2 hours, maybe 3 if they stop to rest. Ash moved to a cabinet, pulling out what looked like emergency supplies. We need to move her. She can't walk, Cade said sharply. Her ankle. Then we carry her. Riker was already strapping weapons to his belt, knives that gleamed silver in the firelight. There's a cave system 5 miles north. They'll never find us in the tunnels. Arya's mind raced. Wait, you're running because of me? We're running because we're alive, Ash corrected, his tone matter of fact. And we'd like to stay that way. But this is your home. Arya looked around the cabin, the handmade furniture, the careful touches that spoke of years living here. You're losing everything because things can be replaced. Cade's amber eyes burned into hers. You can't. The certainty in his voice stole Arya's breath. Ash tossed Cade a pack. Grab what you need. We leave in 10 minutes. The brothers moved with practiced efficiency, each taking a role without needing discussion. Ash gathered medical supplies. Riker loaded weapons and food. Cade packed clothes and blankets. his movements economical but precise. Arya watched them, feeling useless and guilty. These men, these wolves, were abandoning their home because she'd been stupid enough to swerve for a deer, because she'd bled on their mountain, because Cade's wolf had claimed her as mate. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. Cade looked up from his packing, confused. "For what?" "For ruining your lives." Something fierce crossed Cade's face. He crossed the room in 3 strides, kneeling beside the bed so they were eye level. "Listen to me," he said, his voice low and intense. "You didn't ruin anything. You are everything. My wolf has been howling in the dark for 2 centuries, and the moment I caught your scent, it sang. You are not a burden, Arya Thorne. You're the answer to a prayer I stopped believing would be answered." Tears burned in Arya's eyes. "You don't even know me. Then let me." Cade's hand found hers, and that electric pull surged between them again. "Give me time. Give me a chance. And if, when this is over, when you're healed and safe, you still want to leave, I'll take you anywhere you want to go." "Why?" The word broke on a sob. "Why would you do that?" Cade's thumb traced circles on her palm, the gesture achingly tender. "Because love, true love, isn't about possession. It's about wanting someone's happiness more than your own." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Before Arya could respond, Riker's voice cut through the moment. "Time's up. They're moving faster than expected." Cade stood, his face hardening into a warrior's mask. "How close?" "1.5 miles, maybe less." Riker shouldered his pack. "We need to go now." Cade turned to Arya, and his amber eyes held a question, a choice. "Will you trust me?" he asked. "Will you let us protect you?" Arya looked at the 3 brothers, Cade with his desperate hope, Ash with his clinical efficiency, Riker with his lethal readiness. They were strangers, monsters from fairy tales, creatures that shouldn't exist. But they'd saved her life, and they were willing to lose everything to keep her safe. She took a shaky breath and nodded. "Yes," she whispered, "I trust you." The relief on Cade's face was devastating. He bent and scooped her into his arms as if she weighed nothing, cradling her against his chest. Arya's arms wrapped around his neck instinctively, and the mate bond thrummed between them like a living thing. "Hold on tight," Cade murmured against her hair. "This is going to be rough." Then they were moving, Ash leading, Riker guarding the rear, and Cade carrying Arya out into the night. Behind them, the cabin stood warm and welcoming, completely unaware that its occupants would never return. The forest swallowed them whole, and somewhere in the distance, the hunters drew closer. Chapter 4. The Hunt. The forest was alive with sound. Every crack of a branch, every rustle of leaves made Arya's heart jump. Cade moved through the darkness with inhuman grace, his arms steady around her despite the rough terrain. Ash led them down paths that seemed invisible, navigating by moonlight and instinct. Riker brought up the rear, his massive frame melting in and out of shadows like a ghost. They'd been moving for 30 minutes when Cade suddenly stopped. "What is it?" Arya whispered. "Quiet." His voice was barely audible. "They're close." Ash raised his hand, signaling a halt. In the stillness, Arya heard it, the distant sound of voices, men shouting to each other, coordinating their search, the snap of twigs under boots, the metallic click of weapons being readied. "They split up," Riker murmured, appearing beside them. "Smart, covering more ground." "How many?" Cade asked. "I count 6 distinct scents, maybe 7. Ash's silver eyes gleamed in the darkness. Military trained by the sound of their movements. 6 to 7 armed men hunting 3 wolves and an injured woman. The odds made Arya's stomach clench. "We can't outrun them with her," Riker said, his tone flat. Not without shifting. Cade's arms tightened around Arya. "We shift, we risk losing control. My wolf won't let her go. Then we fight." Riker's hand went to one of his knives. "No." Ash's voice cut through the debate. "Fighting means noise. Noise brings more hunters. We need to disappear." A branch cracked too close. There. Movement at Tenley. The shout came from less than 50 yards away. Flashlight beams cut through the trees, sweeping side to side in search patterns. Go, Riker growled. I'll lead them off, Riker, Cade started. Go. The massive wolf shifter was already moving, deliberately stepping on branches, making noise. I'll meet you at the caves. If I don't, he paused, his black gold eyes finding Arya. Protect your mate, brother. Then he was gone, crashing through the underbrush like a wounded animal. The hunter's shouts redirected immediately, following the sound. This way. Ash took off at an angle, moving perpendicular to Riker's path. Quickly, Cade followed, his breathing still steady despite carrying Arya's weight. She pressed her face against his chest, trying to make herself as small as possible, trying not to think about Riker drawing armed men away from them. He'll be okay, Cade murmured as if reading her thoughts. Riker survived worse. They ran, or rather, Cade and Ash ran while Arya clung on, feeling useless. The mate bond pulsed with Cade's elevated heartbeat, his fear and determination bleeding through the connection. She could feel his wolf just beneath the surface, snarling at the threat to its mate. 10 minutes passed. 20. The sounds of pursuit faded behind them, and Arya began to hope they'd escaped. Then Ash stopped so suddenly that Cade nearly collided with him. Blood, Ash whispered. Human. Fresh. They found the body 30 feet ahead. A hunter, or what was left of him. His throat had been torn out, and claw marks raked across his chest. The kill was recent. Steam still rose from the pooling blood. Riker? Cade asked. Ash knelt, examining the wounds. No. The claw pattern is wrong. These marks are smaller, feminine. Arya's breath caught. There are other wolves? This is the Blackwater Pack's territory. Ash said quietly, standing. We've been careful to avoid them. If they're hunting now, we're caught between two threats. Cade's voice was grim. Hunters behind us, hostile pack ahead. A howl split the night, high and eerie, calling others to the kill. They've marked us. Ash's face was pale in the moonlight. The Blackwater Alpha will have heard that. She'll know we're here. She? Arya asked. Celine Blackwater. Cade's arms tightened around Arya protectively. The most ruthless alpha in the Northern Territories. Her pack doesn't share land. They don't negotiate. Another howl answered the first, closer now. Then another. And another. How many? Cade asked. At least 6. Ash was already moving. The caves. It's our only chance. They ran harder now, Cade's enhanced strength the only thing keeping pace with Ash's desperate speed. Behind them, the howls grew closer, forming a net of sound that was slowly tightening around them. Arya's injured ankle throbbed with every jarring step, but she bit back her cries. Making noise now would doom them all. The forest began to change. The trees grew sparser, replaced by rocky outcroppings that jutted from the earth like broken teeth. Ash led them between 2 massive boulders, and suddenly they were facing a cliff face riddled with dark openings. Which one? Cade panted. Third from the left. It connects to the main tunnel system. Ash was already moving toward it. Once we're inside, they'll lose our scent in the mineral deposits. They were 10 feet from the cave entrance when the wolves appeared. 6 of them materialized from the darkness, surrounding the brothers in a perfect ambush formation. These wolves were smaller than Cade, Ash, and Riker's shifted forms, but their coordination spoke of pack tactics and years of hunting together. The largest stepped forward, a silver-coated female with eyes like chips of ice. Even in wolf form, her authority was unmistakable. Celine Blackwater. She shifted in a fluid motion that made Arya gasp. One moment wolf, the next a woman with silver hair and pale skin marked with ritual scars. She stood naked and unashamed, her ice-chip eyes fixed on Cade, trespassers. Her voice was melodic and cold. In my territory, with a human. She tilted her head, nostrils flaring. No, not just human. She carries the scent of mate bond. Her lips curved into a cruel smile. How inconvenient for you. Cade carefully set Arya down, positioning himself between her and Celine. We're just passing through. We'll be gone by dawn. Passing through? Selene laughed, the sound like breaking glass. With hunters on your heels and blood in the air. You've brought war to my doorstep, Wolf. That demands payment. Subscribe if you believe Arya deserves better than this, because people like Arya need an audience that won't abandon them. Drop a comment if Arya's pain is your pain, too. Ash moved to flank Cade, his body language submissive but ready. Name your price. Alpha, we'll pay it. Selene's eyes traveled slowly over Arya, assessing. The human. Give her to me, and you can cross my territory unharmed. No. The word was a growl from Cade's chest. No. Selene's eyebrows rose. You would sacrifice your pack, your brothers, for one fragile human? She's my mate. Cade's eyes bled to gold. And I will die before I let anyone take her. The other wolves began to circle closer, their hackles raised. Selene held up one hand, halting them. Your mate. She studied Arya with new interest. How rare. How precious. Her smile widened. How perfectly tragic, Selene. Ash started. Do you know what I do with trespassers? Selene interrupted, her voice conversational. I give them a choice. Join my pack and submit to my authority, or die where they stand. But you, Cade of no pack. She gestured to Arya. You have a third option. What option? Cade's voice was tight. Selene's ice-chip eyes glittered with malice. Prove she's worth protecting. Challenge me for passage rights. If you win, you and your brothers cross my territory unmolested. Your human lives. She paused, letting the words sink in. If you lose, I take everything. Your life, your brother's freedom, and your mate becomes mine to do with as I please. Arya's blood turned to ice. She grabbed Cade's arm, feeling the tremor running through him. Don't, there has to be another way. But Cade's eyes never left Selene. What are the terms? Cade, no. Ash began. What are the terms? Each word was ground out between clenched teeth. Selene's smile was victorious. 3 trials. Strength, cunning, will. Survive all 3, and you've earned your passage. She stepped closer. But know this. I've ruled these mountains for 60 years. No challenger has ever survived my trials. The wolves around them growled their approval, sensing blood sport. Cade looked at Arya, his amber eyes holding a lifetime of apology and desperate hope. Then he turned back to Selene. I accept. Chapter 5. The first trial. You're insane. Arya hissed, grabbing Cade's shirt. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Cade's hand covered hers, his touch gentle despite the tension vibrating through his frame. It's the only way to keep you safe. Safe? Arya's voice cracked. You could die. Then I die protecting my mate. His amber eyes held hers. There are worse ways to go. Selene clapped her hands once, the sound echoing off the cliff face. How touching. But sentiment won't save you, Wolf. She gestured to her pack, and they moved with synchronized precision, forming a circle around a flat stretch of rocky ground. The first trial begins now. Ash moved close to Cade, his voice low and urgent. Her trials are designed to kill. Everyone knows this. There's no shame in running. There's every shame in running. Cade gently released Arya's hand. Watch over her. Brother, please. The word was raw. If I fail, get her out of here. Take her as far from this mountain as you can. Ash's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He helped Arya sit on a boulder at the edge of the circle, supporting her injured ankle. From here, she had a clear view of the makeshift arena. Selene stood at the center, still naked, still radiating lethal grace. The trial of strength, she announced. Simple. Primal, shift to your wolf form and fight me. First to submit or die loses, her ice-chip eyes fixed on Cade. And before you ask, yes, I fight to kill. Cade began to strip off his shirt, his movements methodical. Arya watched the play of muscle beneath his skin, the old scars that spoke of previous battles. He'd survived 2 centuries of running and fighting, but Selene had ruled these mountains for 60 years. How many challengers had she killed to maintain that rule? Cade. Arya called out, her voice steadier than she felt. Don't you dare die on me. He looked back at her, and something fierce and protective blazed in his amber eyes. Yes, ma'am. Then he shifted. It was nothing like the transformation seen in movies, slow, painful, bones cracking. Cade's shift was fluid, natural, like water changing states. One moment man, the next a massive amber-eyed wolf with dark fur that seemed to absorb the moonlight. He was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Selene shifted in response, her silver coat gleaming. She was smaller than Cade, but she moved with a predator's confidence. This was her territory, her rules, her trial. The pack wolves began to howl, a haunting, rhythmic sound that raised the hair on Arya's arms. Then Selene attacked. She moved like lightning, going low for Cade's throat. He twisted aside, her teeth snapping shut on empty air. She spun, using her smaller size for agility, and raked her claws across his shoulder before dancing back out of range. First blood to Selene. Cade circled, assessing. He was larger, stronger, but Selene fought like she had nothing to lose and everything to prove. She feinted left, then struck right, her teeth finding purchase on his foreleg. Cade yelped and jerked away, limping slightly. "She's toying with him," Ash murmured beside Arya, wearing him down. Can he win? Arya couldn't tear her eyes away from the brutal dance. "I don't know." Ash's voice was hollow. "I've never seen him fight like this with so much to lose." Selene lunged again, and this time Cade was ready. He met her charge head-on, using his superior weight to slam her into the ground. They rolled, a blur of fur and fangs, snarling and snapping. When they broke apart, both were bleeding. Selene from a gash on her side, Cade from wounds on his shoulder and leg. The Silver Alpha's ice-chip eyes narrowed. She'd underestimated him. She came at him again, faster now, vicious. Her teeth found his ear, tearing. Her claws raked his face. But Cade didn't back down. He fought with the desperation of a male protecting his mate. Every blow driven by centuries of loss and the terror of losing the one thing he'd finally found. Arya's nails dug into the boulder beneath her. She could feel his pain through the bond. Not physical agony, but emotional. The fear that he wasn't enough, that he'd fail her like he'd failed his first pack all those years ago. "You're enough," she whispered, knowing he couldn't hear her. "You're enough." As if her words had traveled the distance, Cade's amber eyes found hers across the arena. For one heartbeat, they locked gazes. Then he moved. It was a feint worthy of a warrior 3 times his age. He stumbled, appearing injured, vulnerable. Selene took the bait and dove for his exposed throat. At the last second, Cade twisted and Selene's momentum carried her past him. He caught her mid-flight, his jaws clamping around her back leg, and pulled. Selene crashed to the ground with a yelp of pain and rage. Cade was on her in an instant, his teeth at her throat. Not biting, not yet, but positioned for a killing blow. The message was clear: submit or die. The howling stopped. Silence fell over the arena, broken only by the heavy breathing of the 2 wolves. Selene could have kept fighting, could have twisted away and resumed the battle. But Arya saw the calculation in those ice-chip eyes. Cade had proven himself worthy, at least of surviving the first trial. Slowly, deliberately, Selene lowered her head. The gesture of submission was so slight it was almost imperceptible, but the pack wolves saw it. They shifted restlessly, surprised their alpha had yielded. Cade released her and stepped back, blood dripping from a dozen wounds. Both wolves shifted back to human form. Selene rose gracefully, apparently unbothered by her nakedness or the blood streaming down her leg. Cade swayed slightly, exhaustion and blood loss, taking their toll. "Well fought," Selene said, her voice cool and assessing. "You've survived the trial of strength." One of her pack members brought her a robe, which she shrugged on without taking her eyes off Cade. Another brought clothes for Cade, who dressed quickly, his movements stiff with pain. Arya wanted to run to him, to check his wounds, but Ash's hand on her arm held her back. "Not yet," he murmured. "The trials aren't over." Selene circled Cade slowly. "You're stronger than you look, and smarter than most, but strength alone won't save you from what comes next." Her lips curved into that Cruel smile again. The trial of cunning requires a different kind of survival. She gestured, and 3 of her pack wolves dragged something forward. No someone, Riker. The massive shifter was bound with silver chains that burned angry red marks into his skin. His face was bruised, his clothes torn, but his black gold eyes still blazed with defiance. Riker. Cade started forward, but Celine's raised hand stopped him. Your brother was caught trying to circle back to help you, she said. Noble. Stupid, but noble. She moved to stand beside Riker. The trial of cunning is this. I will ask you 3 riddles. Answer all 3 correctly, and your brother goes free. Fail even once. She placed a silver dagger against Riker's throat, and I open him from neck to navel. Riker's voice was a growl. Don't do it, Cade. Let her kill me. Get Arya out. Celine pressed the blade deeper, drawing blood. Silence. Or I'll cut out your tongue before we begin. Riker fell silent, but his eyes promised murder. Cade's face was pale beneath the blood and bruises. What are your riddles, Alpha? Celine's smile widened. Listen carefully. You get no second chances. She began to circle again, the silver blade still pressed to Riker's throat. First riddle, she said, her melodic voice carrying across the arena. I am taken from a mine and shut up in a wooden case from which I am never released, and yet I am used by almost every person. What am I? Arya's mind raced. A mine, wooden case, never released but used by everyone. Her father had told her riddles like this when she was young, teaching her to think laterally, to see beyond the obvious. Pencil lead, Cade said, his voice steady. Graphite, taken from mines, encased in wood, used but never removed. Celine's eyes narrowed, disappointed. Correct. She paused. Second riddle. The more you take away from me, the larger I grow. What am I? This one was harder. Arya watched Cade's face, saw him working through possibilities. Take away. Grows larger. A hole. He said finally. The more you dig, the larger it becomes. Correct again. Celine's voice had gone cold. You're clever, Wolf. But let's see if that cleverness can save you from this. She leaned close to Riker's ear, the blade never wavering. Final riddle, she said. And this one I designed especially for you. The pack wolves leaned forward, eager. Celine's ice-chip eyes locked on Cade. I am what you seek but can never truly have. I am promised but never delivered. I am dreamed of but destroys you when found. What am I? The silence that followed was crushing. Arya saw Cade's face go blank with confusion. This wasn't a traditional riddle. It was personal, tailored, designed to cut at something deeper than intellect. What he seeks, can never have, promised but never delivered, dreamed of but destroys. The blade pressed deeper into Riker's throat, drawing a thin line of blood. 10 seconds, Wolf, Celine purred. Then your brother dies. Chapter 6, The Answer. 9 seconds. Cade's face was stark white. Arya could feel his panic through the bond, a wild, desperate thrashing like a drowning man reaching for air. What you seek, but can never have. Promised but never delivered, dreamed of but destroys. 8 seconds. The blade bit deeper. Riker's jaw clenched, but he didn't make a sound. His black gold eyes found Cade's, and in them was acceptance, forgiveness, permission. 7 seconds. RD's in. Arya's mind raced. The riddle wasn't about objects or clever wordplay. It was about emotions, about pain. Celine had designed it to wound, not test. What had Cade sought for 2 centuries? What had been promised to him by fate but never delivered? 6 seconds. A mate. The answer hit Arya like a physical blow. Celine was saying that mates, the mate bond, was the answer. That finding your mate destroyed you. That it was better to never have than to lose. But that couldn't be right. Cade had found his mate. The bond was real, thrumming between them even now. 5 seconds. Unless Celine believed Arya would reject him. That the bond would break him worse than never having found her at all. 4 seconds. Hope. Arya called out, her voice ringing across the arena. The answer is hope. Every eye turned to her. Celine's blade paused. The human speaks? The riddle isn't for Cade. Arya continued, struggling to stand despite her injured ankle. Ash steadied her, but she shook off his support. It's for me. You're testing whether I understand what I'm doing to him. Cade's expression was anguished. Arya, don't. Hope is what you seek but can never truly have. Arya said, her voice stronger now. Because the moment you grasp it, it transforms into something else, reality. And reality never matches the dream. Hope is promised by fate, by instinct, by that voice that says, tomorrow will be better. But it's never truly delivered, because hope only exists in the waiting. And when you finally get what you hoped for, she met Cade's amber eyes across the distance. It can destroy you, because what if you're not enough? What if you fail? What if the dream was better than the reality? The silence was absolute. Celine's ice-chip eyes studied Arya with new intensity. Clever, she said softly. Very clever. She removed the blade from Riker's throat. But you didn't answer my question. I asked him, not you, Hope. Cade said immediately, understanding flooding his features. The answer is hope. And do you agree with your mate's interpretation? Celine asked, her voice dangerous. Cade's eyes never left Arya's. Every word. Celine was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. Not her cruel smile, but something smaller, almost sad. You understand then, she said, the curse of hope. I offered you a chance to cross my territory because I wanted to see if you'd learned what I learned 60 years ago. She gestured, and her wolves released Riker's chains. Hope's the cruelest gift the moon gives us. It keeps us searching for something that will only break us in the end. Riker stumbled forward and Ash moved to support him, checking the silver burns with efficient hands. I don't believe that, Cade said quietly. Celine tilted her head. No. Cade moved toward Arya, closing the distance between them. Hope brought me to the crash site that night. Hope made me pull her from the wreckage, and hope is what will get us through whatever comes next. He took Arya's hand, and the bond flared between them. Maybe reality won't match the dream. Maybe I'll fail her 1,000 times, but at least I'll have tried. At least I'll have known her. Something flickered in Celine's expression. Pain, longing, regret. You speak like someone who hasn't lost yet, she said softly. But you will. Eventually, the hunters or time or simple bad luck will take her from you. And that hope you're clinging to, it will become the very thing that destroys you. Then let it destroy me. Cade said simply, because a life without hope is no life at all. The words hung in the air between them. Celine turned away, and Arya could have sworn she saw the glint of tears in those ice-chip eyes. You've passed 2 trials, she said, her voice carefully neutral. One remains, the trial of will. What does it require? Cade asked. Everything. Celine faced them again, and her expression was unreadable. The trial of will is simple. Choose your mate's life or your brother's freedom. The pack wolves shifted restlessly, sensing the turn toward cruelty. What does that mean? Ash demanded. Celine's smile returned cold and sharp. It means I'm offering Cade a choice. I will let Arya go. She can return to her human life, healed and whole, with no memory of this night, or of shifters, or of the mate bond. She'll be safe from hunters, safe from our world, safe from the pain of watching everyone she loves die while she ages and withers. She paused, but in exchange, Cade and his brothers join my pack, under my rule, forever. No, Cade said immediately, or, Celine continued as if he hadn't spoken, Arya stays with you. The bond completes. She becomes part of our world, hunted, marked, living in fear. And I let you and your brothers cross my territory once. But know this, if you choose to keep her, she will suffer. Every day she's with you is a day closer to her death. Hunters will find her. They always do. Arya's heart hammered. This wasn't a riddle with a clever answer. This was a choice between 2 impossible futures. That's not a choice. Riker growled. That's torture. That's reality. Celine corrected. Welcome to what hope costs. Cade's hand tightened around Arya's. She could feel his anguish through the bond, the war raging inside him. Save her by letting her go, or condemn her to a life of danger because he was too selfish to give her up. How long do I have to decide? Cade asked hoarsely. Dawn. Celine gestured to the eastern horizon, where the faintest hint of gray was beginning to stain the sky. 2 hours. Then I need your answer. She turned to leave, her pack wolves following, but she paused at the edge of the circle. For what it's worth, she said without looking back, I hope you choose her freedom, because I chose to keep mine once, and I've regretted it every day since. Then she was gone, melting into the forest with her pack, leaving the brothers and Arya alone in the growing dawn. Riker was the first to speak. We run now, before she changes her mind. Run where? Ash asked bitterly. She owns these mountains. We'd never make it out alive. Then we fight. No. Cade's voice cut through the argument. No more fighting, no more running. He released Arya's hand and stepped back, creating distance. Celine's right. Every moment Arya spends with me puts her in danger. The hunters proved that. How long before they find us again? How long before she dies because I was too selfish to let her go? Cade. Arya started. I won't be the reason you die. Cade continued, his voice breaking. I can't. Not after. He stopped, pressing the heels of his hands against his eyes. My mother died protecting others. My father died buying time for those he loved. Maybe this is just what my family does. We sacrifice ourselves so others can live. Arya felt something crack in her chest. You're going to give me up. I'm going to set you free. Cade's amber eyes were bright with unshed tears. Celine can erase your memories. You'll go back to your life. Your father won't have to worry. You won't have to live in fear. And maybe, his voice dropped to a whisper, maybe that's what love really is, letting go. Comment below. What would you do in Arya's position? No. The word came out sharp and clear. Everyone turned to stare at Arya. No? Cade repeated, confused. No. Arya pushed herself upright, ignoring the screaming pain in her ankle. You don't get to make this choice for me. This is my life, my future, and I'm telling you right now, I choose you. You don't understand what you're saying. I understand perfectly. Arya moved closer, closing the distance he'd created. You think you're protecting me by pushing me away, but you're not. You're just giving up before we've even started. Arya, the hunters will come whether I remember you or not. She interrupted. Did you think about that? If Celine erases my memories, I'll go back to my life with no idea why I survived that crash. No idea that there are monsters hunting in the dark. At least if I stay with you, I'll know what I'm fighting. Cade shook his head. You'll die. Everyone dies, Cade. Arya took his hands, forcing him to look at her. The question is whether we live first, really live. And I'd rather have 1 year with you, 1 month, 1 day, than a lifetime of safety wondering what I lost. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. Arya's voice softened. You've been alone for 200 years, and you're so used to losing people that you're trying to lose me before someone else can take me away. But I'm not going anywhere, not unless you look me in the eyes and tell me you don't want me. Cade's face crumpled. Of course I want you, that's the problem. I want you so badly it terrifies me. Good. Arya pulled him closer. Be terrified, be selfish. Choose me not because it's noble or right, but because you can't imagine breathing without me. Because that's what the mate bond means, isn't it? We're 2 halves of the same whole, and I'd rather burn with you than freeze without you. The words hung between them, raw and honest. Ash cleared his throat. She makes a compelling argument. She makes a reckless argument. Riker corrected, but there was approval in his black gold eyes. I like her. Cade stared at Arya, and she could see the war still raging. Behind his amber eyes. Fear against hope, sacrifice against desire. Please, Arya whispered, choose me. Choose us. Dawn broke over the horizon, spilling golden light across the arena, and Cade made his choice. Chapter 7. The Betrayal. Cade pulled Arya into his arms and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate and fierce, and tasted of blood and hope, and 2 centuries of loneliness finally breaking apart. The mate bond exploded between them like lightning, and Arya felt it, truly felt it. For the first time. Not just a connection, but a completion. As if every part of her that had been searching finally found home. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "I choose you." Cade whispered against her forehead. "God help us both." "I choose you." Riker grunted his approval. "About time. We should move," Ash said, ever practical. "Dawn's here and Selene will want her answer." As if summoned by her name, the Silver Alpha emerged from the tree line. Her pack flanked her, but something had changed. They looked tense, alert. Several kept glancing behind them into the forest. "You've made your choice?" Selene asked, approaching the group. "I have." Cade kept Arya close. "We stay together. All of us cross your territory." Selene studied them for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. A real smile this time, tinged with sadness. "Good. That's the answer I was hoping for." "Really?" Ash sounded skeptical. "Really." Selene's expression turned serious. "Because you're going to need each other for what comes next." A branch snapped in the forest behind her pack. The wolves spun, forming a defensive line. Their hackles raised. From the shadows stepped a man in tactical gear, rifle raised. Then another and another. Within seconds, 15 armed hunters surrounded them, weapons trained on the shifters. Arya's blood went cold. "How?" I called them. The voice came from behind Selene's pack. A smaller wolf pushed through one. Arya hadn't noticed before. It shifted, revealing a young man with sharp features and cold eyes. "Last night, while you were all so focused on the trials." "Damien." Selene's voice was pure ice. "What have you done? What you should have done years ago, Alpha." Damien moved to stand with the hunters, clearly comfortable among them. "These outsiders brought hunters to our territory. They're a threat. So, I made a deal. The hunters get the outsiders and the human. We keep our land." "You betrayed your own pack?" Riker's voice was a growl. "I saved my pack." Damien's eyes were hard. "Selene's been Alpha for 60 years. She's made us soft, hiding, avoiding conflict, letting strangers cross our borders. The old ways are dying because of her weakness." One of the hunters stepped forward, a man with gray hair and cold blue eyes that Arya recognized from every nightmare about monsters under the bed. He had the look of someone who'd killed before, and would kill again without hesitation. "Captain Eli Thorne," he announced, and Arya's world tilted. "Leader of the Hunters Coalition." His eyes found Arya, and something flickered in them. Recognition. "And you must be the girl from the accident." "The one my team tracked here." "Thorne?" Cade's voice was sharp. He looked at Arya. "Your last name is Thorne." The hunter's smile was cruel. "Didn't tell them, did you? That your father is the greatest shifter hunter in the Northern Territories? That you grew up learning how to track and kill werewolves?" "No," Arya whispered, horror washing over her. "No, that's not my father's name. It's Daniel. Daniel Thorne. He's an accountant." By day, Captain Thorne moved closer, and several wolves growled in warning. But at night, he's the man who developed the silver rounds that can kill a shifter with one shot. The man who's hunted the Blackwater pack for 20 years. Selene's ice chip eyes fixed on Arya with sudden understanding and fury. "You're his daughter." "I didn't know," Arya said desperately. "I swear I didn't know. My father never told me." "Of course he didn't tell you." Captain Thorne's voice was almost gentle. "Daniel kept you innocent, protected you from the truth. He thought if you never knew about our work, you'd be safe." He raised his rifle, aiming it at Cade's chest. "But then you had to go and crash your car in shifter territory. And now you've bonded with the very thing your father has spent his life trying to eradicate." The mate bond pulsed with Cade's shock and betrayal. Arya could feel his wolf recoiling, confused, hurt. She'd been raised by a hunter, trained by a hunter. Even if she hadn't known what she was being trained for, "Cade," she said, reaching for him. "Cade, please." He stepped back, just slightly, but the distance felt like a chasm. "Well, isn't this perfect?" Captain Thorne continued. Daniel's going to be devastated when I tell him his little girl became the thing he hates most, a shifter's mate. He turned to his men. Silver rounds in the wolves. Standard ammunition for the girl. We take her alive. Like hell you do. Riker moved into a fighting stance, but 3 rifles immediately targeted him. Easy, big wolf. Captain Thorne's smile widened. You're outnumbered, outgunned, and thanks to young Damien here, we know exactly how many of you there are and where you'll run. He glanced at Damien. Good work, pup. Your payment will be transferred as promised. Damien's expression was triumphant. And you'll leave Blackwater Pack territory? Of course. Captain Thorne's tone suggested otherwise, but Damien seemed too pleased with himself to notice. Celine did notice. Her body tensed, ready to shift, but a hunter pressed his rifle against her spine. Don't even think about it, Alpha. Silver rounds will drop you before you complete the transformation. This is insane, Ash said, his voice tight with controlled panic. Arya had nothing to do with her father's work. She's innocent. No one's innocent. Captain Thorne interrupted. She carries hunter blood. She was trained by Daniel Thorne, even if she didn't understand why. Every tracking skill, every survival technique, it's all in there. He tapped his temple. Wasted on a girl who fell for a wolf. Arya's mind reeled. Her father, kind, gentle Daniel Thorne, who made her soup when she was sick, and taught her to read the forest like a book. He was a hunter, a killer. But even as she tried to deny it, memories surfaced. The way he'd taught her to identify animal tracks too specifically. The self-defense classes he'd insisted on. The silver jewelry he'd always worn. Even though he claimed to hate accessories. The nights he'd come home late, exhausted, claiming overtime at the accounting firm. Oh God, she whispered, it's true. Cade's amber eyes met hers, and in them she saw the same betrayal she felt. The mate bond that had felt so right now seemed tainted, built on lies and blood. I didn't know, Arya said again, her voice breaking. Cade, I swear. It doesn't matter. His voice was hollow. Knowing or not knowing doesn't change what you are. The words cut deeper than any blade. Captain Thorne raised his hand, and his men tensed. Enough talking. Silver rounds in 3, 2. Wait, Celine's voice rang out. You want wolves? I'll give you wolves. All of Blackwater Pack in exchange for letting these 4 go. Celine. No. One of her pack wolves started forward, but she silenced him with a look. I'm the prize you really want. Celine continued, her ice-chip eyes boring into Captain Thorne. The Alpha who's evaded you for 60 years. Let them run. And I'll come quietly. Captain Thorne considered. Tempting. But no, I think I'll take all of you. He dropped his hand. Gunfire erupted. Cade shoved Arya behind him as silver bullets tore through the air. Celine shifted instantly, her silver wolf form leaping at the nearest hunter. Her pack followed, chaos exploding across the arena as wolves and humans collided in a frenzy of fangs and gunfire. Ash grabbed Arya's arm. Run, into the caves. But Arya couldn't move. She watched in horror as Riker took a bullet to the shoulder. Silver, by the way he screamed and dropped, as one of Celine's pack wolves fell, blood pouring from its chest, as Cade shifted and threw himself at Captain Thorne, only to be driven back by a hail of bullets that left smoking wounds in his dark fur. Arya, move. Ash physically lifted her and ran for the cave entrance. A bullet whistled past her head. Another hit Ash's leg and he stumbled, but kept running. They crashed through the cave entrance into darkness, and Ash collapsed, gasping. Your leg. Arya started. Regular bullet. I'll heal. Ash pressed his hand against the wound, his face pale. But Riker took Silver, and Cade. His voice broke. We have to go back. We have to help them. Arya looked back at the arena. Cade was still fighting, blood streaming from multiple wounds. Riker lay motionless. Celine's pack was being systematically gunned down, their superior strength no match for Silver and superior numbers. And Captain Thorne, her father's colleague, stood at the center of it all, directing the slaughter with clinical efficiency. If Arya's journey moved you, Subscribe so you never miss a story like this. Stories like these deserve an audience that cares. Comment. What would you do in Arya's position? This was her fault, her bloodline, her father's legacy written in silver and death. Arya made a decision. She stood, ignoring Ash's protests, and limped back toward the cave entrance. "What are you doing?" Ash hissed. Arya's voice was steady. Ending this, she emerged from the cave and every gun immediately swung to target her. "Stop," her voice echoed across the arena. "Stop shooting. I'll come with you willingly. Just stop killing them." The gunfire ceased. Cade, still in wolf form, snarled at her, trying to position himself between her and the hunters. But he was bleeding from too many wounds, weakening. Captain Thorne lowered his weapon. "Smart girl. Come here." Arya limped forward, each step agony on her injured ankle. The mate bond screamed at her to run, to stay with Cade, but she forced herself to keep walking. "Arya, don't." Cade's voice was ragged as he shifted back to human form. "Please. I'm a hunter's daughter," Arya said, not looking at him. Looking at him would break her resolve. Maybe this is where I was always supposed to end up. She reached Captain Thorne and he grabbed her arm in a grip that would leave bruises. "Excellent choice." He smiled at Cade. "Your mate, just your life, wolf. I suggest you run before I change my mind." Cade's amber eyes were wild with desperation and betrayal and helpless rage. And then Captain Thorne put a gun to Arya's head. "Of course," he added conversationally. "I never said anything about letting her live." Chapter 8. The Revelation. Wait, the shout came from an unexpected source, Damien. The young wolf who'd betrayed them stood frozen, staring at Captain Thorne with dawning horror. "You said you'd only take the outsiders. You said Blackwater Pack would be left alone," I lied. Captain Thorne's voice was matter-of-fact, the gun still pressed against Arya's temple. "Did you really think we'd let a pack of shifters continue to exist just because one pup sold out his alpha?" He gestured to his men. "Kill them all, starting with the traitor." Damien's eyes went wide. "But we had a deal." The bullet caught him in the chest before he could finish. He dropped, blood spreading across the rocky ground, his expression one of shocked betrayal. "No deals with monsters," Captain Thorne said coldly. "That's rule number 1. Celine, bleeding from multiple wounds, shifted back to human form. Her silver hair was matted with blood, but her ice-chip eyes blazed with fury. "You'll die for this, Hunter." "Probably." Captain Thorne shrugged, but not today. He pressed the gun harder against Arya's head. "Here's what's going to happen. You wolves are going to lie down, shift to human form, and let my men chain you with silver. Or I put a bullet through this girl's brain and we do it the hard way." Cade, still bleeding from his wounds, took a step forward. "Let her go. She's not part of this. She's exactly part of this." Captain Thorne's grip on Arya tightened. "Daniel Thorne's daughter, bonded to a wolf. Do you know what that makes her? A liability, a weakness. My old friend will never be able to do his job properly, knowing his little girl is out there playing house with the enemy." "So you'll kill me to make me a better hunter?" Arya's voice was surprisingly steady, despite the gun against her skull. "I'll kill you because it's a kindness." Captain Thorne's voice was almost gentle. "You think this bond is love? It's a curse. You'll watch him die, and he will die eventually. Silver bullet, hunter's trap, rival pack, and when he's gone, you'll be left with a hole in your soul that never heals. I've seen it happen. Trust me, death is better." The mate bond pulsed with Cade's anguish. Arya could feel his wolf howling inside him, desperate to save her but helpless against 15 armed men. Or, a new voice said from the cave entrance, "You could lower your weapon before you lose your hand." Everyone turned. A man stood in the shadows of the cave, tall, lean, with dark hair, streaked with silver and eyes the color of storm clouds. He held no weapon but radiated danger like most people radiated heat. Captain Thorne's face went pale. "Impossible. You're dead. We killed you 20 years ago. You tried." The man stepped into the light and Arya saw the scars, burn marks covering half his face, claw marks across his throat. You came very close, but I'm harder to kill than you thought. Celine inhaled sharply. Ezra. The name sent a ripple through the remaining Blackwater wolves. Several bowed their heads. Others whimpered, whether in fear or reverence, Arya couldn't tell. Hello, Celine. Ezra's storm gray eyes softened for just a moment before hardening again. It's been a long time. Who is this? Captain Thorne demanded, but his hand was shaking now. Ezra Blackwater, Cade said quietly. The previous Alpha, Celine's mate. The revelation hung in the air like smoke. You died, Celine whispered, and her voice held more emotion than Arya had heard in all their previous encounters combined. I watched you burn. You watched me fall, Ezra corrected. The burning came after, but some of us are too stubborn to die properly. His eyes swept across the carnage, the dead wolves, the wounded, Damien's body cooling on the ground. I felt the pack bonds breaking, felt them dying, so I came. To do what? Captain Thorne tried to sound confident, but the gun wavered against Arya's head. You're one wolf against 15 armed hunters. 14, Ezra corrected. Your man behind the boulder died 3 minutes ago, broken neck. I'm very quiet when I want to be. Captain Thorne's face went from pale to ashen. He gestured, and one of his men ran to check. The hunter returned, nodding grimly. 13 now, actually, Ezra continued conversationally. The 2 you posted as rear guard won't be reporting back either, which brings us to an interesting situation, doesn't it? He moved forward, and despite the guns tracking him, despite the silver bullets that could end him, he radiated absolute confidence. You're going to release the girl, Ezra said. Then you're going to leave my territory, and if you're very, very lucky, I'll let you make it to the border before I hunt you down like the vermin you are. Your territory? Captain Thorne laughed, but it sounded forced. Celine is Alpha now. You're nothing but a ghost. Am I? Ezra's smile was cold. Celine, would you like to tell him or should I? Celine's ice-chip eyes met his and something passed between them. 60 years of separation, of grief, of loneliness, of hope that had been killed and somehow resurrected. The Alpha bond never broke, she said quietly. Even when I thought you were dead, I felt you, always, like a phantom limb. I ruled in your absence, but I never truly became Alpha because you never truly died. Ezra nodded. And now I'm here. Which means, by pack law, I'm reclaiming my position. The remaining Blackwater wolves began to shift, forming up behind Ezra. Their wounded Alpha might have lost her edge over 60 years of ruling alone, but their true Alpha, scarred, half dead, but alive, had returned. Captain Thorne's tactical mind was clearly racing, recalculating odds. 13 men against 1 wolf shouldn't be a contest, but this wasn't just any wolf. This was an Alpha who'd survived an execution. Last chance, Ezra said softly. Release her. Or what? Captain Thorne pressed the gun harder. You'll kill us all? You're not fast enough to save her and stop us. You're right. Ezra's expression didn't change. I'm not. Then we have a stalemate. But she is. The words were barely out of Ezra's mouth when Arya moved. Everything her father had taught her, every self-defense technique, every pressure point, every moment of training she'd thought was about staying safe in the city crystallized in one motion. She drove her elbow back into Captain Thorne's solar plexus, twisted out of his grip as he gasped, and used his own momentum to send him sprawling. The gun clattered across the rocks. For one heartbeat, everyone was frozen in shock. Then, chaos erupted. Ezra moved like lightning, taking down 2 hunters before they could fire. Celine shifted and tore out another's throat. Cade, despite his wounds, launched himself at the man nearest Arya, protecting her with savage fury. But Arya wasn't watching the fight. She was watching Captain Thorne scramble for his dropped weapon, his face twisted with rage. She was closer. Her hand closed around the gun first. She pointed it at him, her hand steady despite everything. Don't, Captain Thorne said, raising his hands. Arya, listen to me. Your father, my father, lied to me. Arya's voice was cold. My whole life, he lied. Made me complicit in murder without even knowing it. Every tracking skill he taught me, every lesson about reading the forest, it was all so I could help him kill innocent people. They're not people, Captain Thorne spat. They're animals. They're more human than you are. Arya's finger tightened on the trigger. Cade would have died to save me. Selene offered to sacrifice herself for strangers. Riker drew hunters away knowing he'd be captured. What have you done? Except lie and murder. Captain Thorne's expression shifted, became calculating. Your father will never forgive you if you kill me. We've been partners for 20 years. We're friends. Then my father is someone I don't want to know. The gunshot echoed across the arena, but Arya hadn't pulled the trigger. Captain Thorne looked down at the blood spreading across his chest, confused. Then he toppled forward, dead before he hit the ground. Behind where he'd stood, Ash lowered a smoking rifle he'd taken from one of the fallen hunters. He talked too much, Ash said quietly. Then he collapsed, his leg wound finally taking its toll. The remaining hunters, seeing their leader dead and facing multiple enraged shifters, broke and ran. Ezra let them go for now. Silence fell over the arena, broken only by ragged breathing and the moans of the wounded. Arya dropped the gun and ran to Cade, who caught her despite his injuries. They held each other, and the mate bond sang with relief and love and the simple joy of being alive. I'm sorry, Arya whispered against his chest. I'm so sorry about my father. You're not your father. Cade's voice was firm. You're not responsible for his choices any more than I'm responsible for the wolves who turn rogue and kill innocent people. You're you and you're mine. If you'll still have me. I always. Arya breathed. Ezra approached them, Selene at his side. Up close, his scars were even more terrible, but his storm-gray eyes were kind. Thank you, Cade said, for saving us. Thank the girl, Ezra replied. She's the one who disarmed him. Impressive work, by the way. Your father may be a monster, but he trained you well. Arya flinched, and Cade's arms tightened around her. We need to talk, Ezra continued, his expression growing serious. About what happens next, because the hunters know about this place now. More will come, and Daniel Thorne. He paused. He'll come for his daughter and his revenge. The words settled over them like a shroud. Arya had escaped one threat, only to face something worse. A father who'd lied to her for 23 years. A father who was one of the greatest shifter hunters alive. A father who would see her bond to Cade as the ultimate betrayal. Let him come, Arya said, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding who I am or who I love. Cade looked at her with such fierce pride that her heart ached. Then we stand together, he said. All of us. Riker added, limping over with several Blackwater wolves supporting him. Pack protects pack, even honorary members. Selene and Ezra exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. The Blackwater Pack will grant you sanctuary, Ezra announced. All 3 of you, and the girl who carries hunter blood but chose wolves over her own kind. Thank you, Ash said, finally accepting medical attention from one of Selene's pack healers. Ezra's expression grew distant. Don't thank me yet. This is only the beginning. Daniel Thorne won't stop until he's recovered his daughter or buried her, and the Hunters Coalition won't forgive this massacre. He looked at each of them in turn. A war is coming. The only question is whether you'll be ready when it arrives. The sun had fully risen now, bathing the blood-soaked arena in golden light. Arya stood in Cade's arms, surrounded by wolves and death, and the promise of future violence. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Chapter 9. The Bond Completed. The Blackwater Pack's main den was hidden deep in the mountain, a network of caves that had been carved and expanded over centuries into something resembling an underground village. Torches lined the walls, casting dancing shadows across stone corridors. The air smelled of earth and smoke, and the wild musk of wolves. Arya sat in a small room that served as a makeshift infirmary, while a pack healer named Marina cleaned and dressed her wounds. The older woman worked with efficient gentleness, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical braid. "You're lucky," Marina said, wrapping Arya's ankle in fresh bandages. "Another day on that sprain and you might have done permanent damage. I don't feel lucky." Arya winced as Marina tightened the wrap. "People died today because of me. People died because hunters are bastards." Marina's tone was matter-of-fact. "Don't take responsibility for other people's evil, girl. That way lies madness." In the corner, Ash sat on another bed, while a different healer extracted the bullet from his leg. He didn't make a sound, but his silver eyes were tight with pain. "How's Riker?" Arya asked. "Alive." Ash gritted his teeth as the healer probed deeper. "Silver poisoning is slow, but he's strong. He'll survive." "And Cade?" "Being tended by Ezra himself." Marina finished with Arya's ankle and moved to check the gash on her forehead. "The Alpha wants to speak with him." "About the mate bond, I expect." Arya's stomach twisted. Is there a problem with it?" Marina and Ash exchanged glances. "Not a problem, exactly," Ash said carefully. "But the bond isn't complete yet. You've acknowledged it, felt it, but it hasn't been sealed." "Sealed how?" Marina's expression was kind but serious. "Through the marking ritual. Cade's wolf needs to claim you formally, and you need to accept that claim, knowing what it means." "What does it mean?" "It means you'll carry his mark for the rest of your life," Marina explained. "A bite, usually on the shoulder or neck. It'll scar in a specific pattern that identifies you as mated. Other shifters will see it and know you're under pack protection. But it also means," she hesitated, "it means you'll be bound to him completely." Ash finished. "His emotions will become yours. His pain, his joy, his lifespan." He met her eyes. "Mates who complete the bond live and die together, Arya. If one dies, the other usually follows within hours, days if they're strong." The weight of those words settled over Arya like a heavy blanket. "So if Cade dies in this war that's coming," she whispered, "you die with him." Ash confirmed. "That's the cost of the mate bond. That's why it's not just love, it's forever." Arya sat quietly, processing. She'd thought she understood what choosing Cade meant. But this was different. This wasn't just choosing to be with him. It was choosing to tie her life to his so completely that she'd have no existence without him. Can I think about it?" she asked. "Of course." Marina patted her hand. "The bond can exist uncompleted for years if needed. But know this, every day you wait is a day Cade's wolf suffers, the need to claim, to mark, to complete. It's primal. Fighting it takes enormous willpower, and if I decide not to complete it," the silence that followed was answer enough. "The bond would break," Ash said quietly. "Not cleanly, not easily, but it would break and Cade would." He stopped, searching for words. "He'd survive, technically, but he'd be broken in ways that never heal." Arya closed her eyes. Another impossible choice. Complete the bond and tie her life to a man she'd known for less than 2 days, or break it and destroy him. "I want to see him," she said. Marina nodded. "He's in the Alpha's chamber. I'll take you there." The Alpha's chamber was the largest cave in the complex, with a ceiling that soared 30 feet overhead. Crystals embedded in the rock caught the torchlight and scattered it like stars. At the center stood Ezra and Selene, and between them, Cade. He'd been cleaned up, his wounds dressed, and wore fresh clothes that someone from the pack had provided. But his amber eyes were haunted, and when he saw Arya, the relief and longing in his expression made her chest ache. Arya. Her name was a prayer on his lips. "I'll leave you to talk," Marina said, retreating. Ezra studied Arya with those storm-gray eyes. "I understand." Marina explained the marking ritual. She did, and? Arya looked at Cade, then back at Ezra. "Is there a time limit for deciding?" "No formal limit," Selene said, speaking for the first time since they'd entered the den. "But the longer you wait, the harder it becomes for both of you." The bond will pull at you constantly. You'll feel phantom pain when separated. Sleep will be difficult, concentration nearly impossible, and if we complete it, then you become Pack, Ezra said simply. Not just Cade's mate, but Blackwater Pack's responsibility. We protect our own unto death. Even though I'm human, even though my father is a hunter, especially because of those things. Ezra's scarred face was serious. You chose us over your own blood. That kind of loyalty is rare, sacred. We don't abandon those who prove themselves worthy. Arya's throat tightened. These wolves, these supposed monsters, were offering her more acceptance in one day than she'd felt in years of human society. "Can I speak with Cade alone?" she asked. Ezra and Selene exchanged glances, then nodded. They left, closing the heavy wooden door behind them. Suddenly, Arya and Cade were alone for the first time since the crash. "I'm sorry," Cade said immediately. "I should never have." "Stop." Arya crossed to him, closing the distance. "Stop apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You didn't ask for this bond any more than I did." "But I want it." His voice was raw. "God, Arya. I want it so badly it terrifies me. But I can't. I won't pressure you. If you need time, if you need space, if you need to walk away." "What do you need?" Arya interrupted. Cade's amber eyes met hers, and in them she saw everything. The loneliness, the hope, the desperate love, the fear of losing her. "I need you," he whispered. "I need you like I need air, but I need you willing. I need you choosing this. Not because the bond compels you or because you feel guilty, or because you think you owe me. I need you to want this as much as I do." Arya reached up and cupped his scarred, beautiful face in her hands. "I crashed my car," she said softly. "I got pulled from the wreckage by 3 wolves who should have left me to die. I was carried through the forest and tended by strangers. I watched you fight for me, bleed for me, offer to sacrifice your own happiness for my freedom." She smiled, feeling tears track down her cheeks. "In 2 days, you've shown me more genuine care than some people show in a lifetime. So yes, Cade, I want this. I choose this. I choose you." The sound he made was half sob, half laugh. "You're sure?" "I'm terrified," Arya admitted. "But I'm sure." Cade pulled her close, and the mate bond flared between them like lightning. "The marking ritual," he said against her hair. "It'll hurt. Not badly, but I know." Arya tilted her head, exposing her neck. Marina explained. "Arya." Cade's voice was strangled. "If you do this, there's no going back. We'll be bound completely, forever." "Good." Arya's voice was steady. "I'm done running from destiny, from fate, from whatever this is between us. Mark me, Cade. Make me yours." His eyes bled to gold wolf eyes, and she felt his control fracturing. "Here?" he asked hoarsely. "Now?" "Here, now." Arya's heart hammered, but her resolve was iron. "Before I lose my courage." Cade's hands framed her face, and he kissed her tender and desperate and full of 2 centuries of waiting. When he broke away, his canines had lengthened, and his amber gold eyes blazed. "I love you," he whispered. "I'll love you until the day we die. And if there's anything after, I'll love you there too." "Then prove it," Arya breathed. Cade's mouth found the junction of her neck and shoulder. She felt his breath, hot against her skin, felt the sharp points of his canines, felt the mate bond, gathering itself like a storm about to break. Then he bit down. Pain lanced through her, sharp and bright and right. The mate bond exploded outward, no longer a tentative connection, but a roaring flood of sensation. She felt Cade's love, his relief, his fierce protectiveness, felt his wolf's triumphant howl, felt every emotion he'd been holding back crash over her in waves, and she felt herself changing. Not physically, she was still human, but something fundamental shifted inside her. She could feel Cade now, not just emotionally, but physically, could sense his heartbeat as clearly as her own, could feel the pack bond spreading out from Ezra and Selene like a web, and her own thread connecting to them through Cade. She was pack now, truly, completely pack. When Cade released her, blood stained his lips. The bite mark on her shoulder was already healing, but Arya knew it would scar. A permanent reminder of this moment, this choice. "How do you feel?" Cade asked, his voice reverent. Arya considered. The pain was fading, replaced by a warmth that spread from the bite mark through her entire body. She felt connected in a way she'd never experienced, grounded, complete. "I feel like I've been wandering my whole life," she said softly, "and I finally found home." Cade's smile was radiant. He kissed her again, gentle this time, and she tasted her own blood on his lips mixed with salt from his tears. The door opened, and Ezra entered with Selene. "It's done," Ezra said, seeing the mark on Arya's shoulder. It wasn't a question. "It's done," Cade confirmed. Ezra nodded slowly. "Then welcome to Blackwater Pack, Arya Thorne. May your bond be strong and your enemies foolish." Selene moved closer, studying the mark with a healer's eye. "It's clean. It'll scar beautifully." Her ice chip eyes softened slightly. "You chose well, girl. Not many would have the courage to bind themselves to a wolf in the middle of a war." "Maybe I'm just stubborn," Arya said. "Stubborn keeps you alive." Selene almost smiled. "I like you, Hunter's daughter. You have spine." A howl echoed through the cave system, long and mournful, and full of warning. Ezra's expression hardened immediately. The perimeter watch. Someone's coming. Within seconds, pack wolves were moving through the corridors with military precision. Ezra strode toward the entrance, Selene at his side. Cade kept Arya close, his body tense and ready. They emerged into the main cave to find Ash supporting Riker, both looking grim. "What is it?" Cade demanded. "Hunters," Riker said, his voice weak from silver poisoning, but still carrying authority. "At least 50, maybe more, and they're being led by—" A new voice echoed through the cave entrance. Familiar, warm. The voice that had read Arya bedtime stories and taught her to track deer, and told her he loved her every single day. "Arya," Daniel Thorne called. "Arya, sweetheart, I know you're in there. Come out. Let's talk, please." Arya's blood turned to ice. Her father had come, and he'd brought an army. Chapter 10. The Choice. Arya stood frozen, her father's voice echoing through the cave like a ghost from her old life. "Arya, please." Daniel Thorne's voice cracked with emotion. "I know what Captain Thorne tried to do. I know you're scared, but I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to bring you home." Cade's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Through the mate bond, she felt his uncertainty, his protectiveness, his willingness to fight or flee, whatever she needed. "What do you want to do?" he whispered. Arya looked at him. This man she'd known for 2 days, but felt like she'd known for lifetimes. Then she looked at Ezra and Selene, at Ash and Riker, at the Blackwater wolves who'd accepted her as pack despite her blood. "I want to talk to him," she said quietly. "Alone? Absolutely not." Cade's voice was sharp. "He brought 50 hunters who will start shooting the moment they think their leader is in danger." Arya met his amber eyes. "I need to end this before more people die. Before my father does something he can't take back." "She's right," Ezra said grimly. "If we engage 50 hunters in these caves, we'll be slaughtered. The tunnels amplify gunfire and silver bullets don't miss in close quarters." Selene's ice chip eyes studied Arya. "You think you can convince him to leave peacefully?" "I don't know." Arya touched the fresh mark on her shoulder, feeling the ridged scar beneath her fingertips. "But I have to try." "Then I'm coming with you," Cade said firmly. "No." Arya turned to him, placing both hands on his chest. "He needs to see me alone. He needs to know I made this choice freely. If you're there, he'll think you're controlling me, compelling me somehow. Please, Cade, trust me." Through the bond, she felt his wolf howling in protest, every instinct screaming to protect its mate. But slowly, agonizingly, he nodded. 5 minutes, he said hoarsely. "If you're not back in 5 minutes, I'm coming for you. Army or no army." Arya kissed him once, fiercely, then turned and walked toward the cave entrance. The morning sun was blinding after the torchlit caves. Arya emerged onto the rocky plateau and saw them, dozens of hunters in tactical gear, weapons raised, forming a perimeter around the cave entrance. At the center stood her father. Daniel Thorne looked older than she remembered. His sandy hair had more gray, his face more lines, but his eyes, warm brown eyes that had comforted her through nightmares and celebrated her victories, were the same. Arya. Her name was a sob of relief. He took a step forward and immediately 10 guns swiveled to track his movement. "Don't shoot," he barked at his men. "Stand down." The hunters lowered their weapons slightly, but their tension was palpable. "Hi, Dad," Arya said quietly. Daniel's eyes swept over her, cataloging injuries with a practiced gaze. Then they landed on the mark at her neck and his face went pale. "No," he whispered. "Please tell me you didn't." "I did." Arya's voice was steady. "I completed the mate bond. I'm Pack now. Blackwater Pack." Daniels staggered as if she'd struck him. "Arya, you don't understand what you've done. That mark, it's not love. It's not a choice. It's a compulsion. They've brainwashed you, made you think no one brainwashed me." Arya moved closer, maintaining eye contact. "Cade gave me every opportunity to leave. He offered to let Celine erase my memories. He was willing to break the bond and live with the pain if it meant I could be free." "Does that sound like someone who's controlling me?" "They told you what you wanted to hear," Daniel insisted. "Arya, I've studied these creatures for 20 years. I know how they manipulate, like you manipulated me." The words came out sharper than intended. 23 years of lies, Dad. 23 years of training me to track and fight without telling me why. Making me complicit in murder without even knowing it." Daniel flinched. "I was protecting you. You were using me." Arya's voice broke. "Every camping trip, every survival lesson, every time you taught me to read tracks or identify weak points, you were grooming me to be a hunter, to hate the same things you hate, to kill without question. I taught you those things to keep you alive," Daniel said desperately. "The world is full of monsters, Arya. Real monsters. And I needed you to be able to defend yourself if they ever found you." "Is that what you tell yourself?" Arya asked softly. "That you're protecting people? Because from where I'm standing, you're the monster, Dad. You kill families. You slaughter innocent people whose only crime is being different from you. They're not people." Daniel's control cracked. "They're animals that wear human faces. They kill for sport, for territory, for fun, for survival." Arya interrupted. "Just like you do. The only difference is that they're honest about what they are. You dress up murder in uniforms and protocols and call it justice." Daniel was quiet for a long moment, his expression tortured. "Did he tell you? What happened to your mother?" he asked finally. Arya froze. "What? Your mother?" Daniel's voice was hollow. "She didn't die in a car accident, Arya. That was the story I told you because you were too young to understand. The truth is that your mother was killed by a rogue wolf. Torn apart while I watched, helpless to save her." The ground tilted beneath Arya's feet. "No," she whispered. "I was a civilian then," Daniel continued, each word careful and precise. "A normal man with a normal life. But after I buried what was left of her, I swore I'd make every wolf in these mountains pay. So I joined the coalition. I trained. I learned to hunt the things that had destroyed my world." His brown eyes were bright with tears. "Everything I've done, I did for her. For you. To make sure no one else has to lose someone they love to those monsters." Arya felt tears streaming down her face. "Dad, come home," Daniel said, extending his hand. "Please, sweetheart, come home. We can fix this. There are rituals that can break a mate bond. It'll hurt, but you'll be free. You can have your life back." For a heartbeat, Arya wavered. This was her father. The man who'd raised her, protected her, loved her through every scraped knee and broken heart. How could she choose strangers, wolves, over him? Then the mate bond pulsed, warm and steady. She felt Cade's love, his faith in her, his certainty that whatever she chose would be right. She felt the pack connection spreading out like roots, grounding her, supporting her. She thought about Cade fighting for her despite his wounds, Riker drawing hunters away, knowing he'd be caught. Ash taking a bullet meant for her. Celine offering to sacrifice herself for strangers. And she thought about Captain Thorne's casual cruelty, about Damien's betrayal and death, about her father's army surrounding the cave, ready to slaughter everyone inside because they were different. "I'm sorry about Mom," Arya said quietly. "I'm sorry you lost her. I'm sorry you've been living with that pain for 23 years. She lowered her hand, leaving his extended one empty. "But I'm not coming home," Daniel's face crumpled. "Arya, the wolves didn't kill Mom," Arya continued. "One rogue wolf did, one criminal. That doesn't make them all guilty any more than one human murderer makes all humans guilty. You taught me that once, remember? When I was 8 and afraid of strangers because a man had tried to grab me at the park. You said I couldn't judge everyone by the actions of one person. That's different. It's not." Arya's voice was firm. "You're punishing an entire species for what one wolf did, and in the process, you've become exactly what you claim to hate. A killer, without mercy." "I have mercy," Daniel said desperately. "I'm showing it now by offering you a way out. But if you refuse," he gestured to his men. "I have orders, Arya. From the Coalition. Every wolf in that cave is marked for death, including the one who marked you." The threat hung in the air like poison. "Then you'll have to kill me too," Arya said calmly, "because I won't let you slaughter my pack. And yes, Dad, they're my pack now. My family. The people I've chosen to stand with. I can't lose you," Daniel whispered. "You're all I have left of her. Then don't lose me." Arya moved closer, close enough to touch him. "Walk away. Tell the Coalition the wolves escaped. Tell them whatever you need to tell them, but let us go. Please." Daniel stared at her, and she saw the war raging behind his brown eyes. Love versus duty, father versus hunter, the daughter he'd raised versus the monsters he'd sworn to destroy. "If I let them go," he said finally, his voice breaking, "the Coalition will brand me a traitor. They'll hunt me too. Then come with us." The words surprised Arya even as she said them. "Not as a hunter, as a father. We can protect you. The pack. I can't." Daniel's voice was hollow. "I've killed too many of them, Arya. There's too much blood between us. They'd never accept me and I couldn't blame them." "Then what?" Arya asked desperately. "We just stand here until someone starts shooting?" Daniel looked past her at the cave entrance, where she knew Cade and the others were watching. Then he looked at the mark on her shoulder, permanent, undeniable proof that she'd chosen wolves over her own blood. "I have another daughter," he said quietly, "in the city, Stephanie. She's yours and your mother's age. Her mother, my second wife, left us years ago, but Stephanie stayed. She doesn't know about the hunting. I kept her safe, like I tried to keep you safe." He met Arya's eyes. "If I let you go, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If anything happens to me, you'll watch over her, protect her from this world. From the Coalition, from rogue wolves, from everything. Promise me, Arya." Arya's throat tightened. "I promise." Daniel nodded slowly. Then he turned to his men. "Stand down," he ordered. "Sir?" One of the hunters looked confused. "The orders?" I said, "stand down." Daniel's voice carried the weight of 20 years of command. "The wolves are gone. Escaped through to the back tunnels. We missed them." "But, sir, we have the cave surrounded. Are you questioning my report, soldier?" Daniel's tone went ice cold. "Because if you are, we can discuss it with the Coalition Oversight Committee. Along with how you let 50 hunters get outmaneuvered by a handful of wolves." The hunter paled and stepped back. "No, sir, you're right. They must have escaped." Daniel turned back to Arya one last time. "Go," he said quietly, "before I change my mind. Before my conscience catches up with my heart." Arya wanted to hug him, wanted to tell him she loved him, wanted to bridge the chasm that had opened between them. But there were too many bodies in that gap, too much blood, too many lies. "Thank you," she whispered instead. "Don't thank me." Daniel's voice was raw. "Just be happy, live well, love that wolf of yours with everything you have. Because life's too short for regrets. And I have enough for both of us." He gestured to his men, and they began to withdraw, moving back toward the tree line in precise formation. Lingered for just a moment, drinking in the sight of his daughter alive, marked, chosen by wolves. Then he turned and walked away. Arya stood alone on the plateau, watching him disappear into the forest. She felt the mate bond pulling at, but she needed this moment. Needed to say goodbye to the life she'd had and the father she thought she'd known. "I love you, Dad," she whispered to the empty air. Then she turned and walked back into the cave. Cade caught her the moment she crossed the threshold, pulling her into his arms. She buried her face in his chest and let herself cry for her mother, for her father, for the innocent girl she'd been just 3 days ago. "It's over," Cade murmured against her hair. "You're safe. We're all safe." Ezra approached, Selene at his side. "Your father is a remarkable man," he said quietly. "Conflicted, broken, but remarkable. Few hunters would make the choice he just made." "Will he be okay?" Arya asked. "I don't know." Ezra's scarred face was somber. "But he gave you something precious, a chance. Don't waste it." Arya nodded, wiping her tears. Around her, the Blackwater pack was gathering, Ash and Riker, Marina and the other healers, warriors and elders and young pups who watched her with curious eyes. These were her people now, her family. Selene stepped forward. "The pack accepts you, Arya Thorne. Not just as Cade's mate, but as one of us. You've proven your loyalty, your courage, and your strength. Welcome home." The pack howled a sound that started low and built to crescendo that shook the cave walls. Arya felt it through the mate bond, through the pack bonds, through every cell of her body. She was home. 3 months later, Arya sat on a cliff overlooking the valley, watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and crimson. The autumn air was crisp, promising snow in the weeks to come. Cade emerged from the forest behind her, carrying firewood for their camp. In 3 months, he'd taught her to hunt, to track, to read the forest like a second language. She trained with the pack warriors, learning to defend herself properly this time, not against some nebulous threat, but against the real dangers of their world. "You're thinking too hard," Cade said, settling beside her. "I can feel it through the bond." Arya leaned into him, savoring his warmth. "I got a letter today from my sister Stephanie." Cade tensed, and she wants to meet me. Says our father told her everything before Arya's voice caught. Before the coalition executed him for treason. Cade pulled her closer. "I'm sorry. Me, too." Arya blinked back tears. But he kept his promise. He protected her, told her where to find me if she ever needed help. And now, she pulled out the letter, reading the last lines again. "I don't understand what you are now, or what our father became, but you're my sisters, and I need family. Please write back, will you?" Cade asked. Arya looked out at the mountains, at the pack's territory spreading out before them. In the valley below, she could see wolves running training exercises, hunting parties, simple joy in movement. Yes, she decided. Family is family, even the complicated kind. Cade kissed her temple. "You're going to be an amazing big sister. I learned from the best." Arya smiled, thinking of Ash and Riker, of Selene and Ezra, of the entire pack that had adopted her as one of their own. As night fell and the first stars appeared, Arya thought about her journey. The crash that had changed everything, the wolves who'd saved her, the father who'd let her go, the bond that had made her whole. She'd lost one family and gained another. She discovered truths that shattered her world and rebuilt it into something stronger. She'd learned that monsters weren't defined by species, but by choices. And she'd learned that hope, the thing that could destroy you, could also save you if you were brave enough to hold on. Cade's hand found hers, the mate bond humming between them, steady, eternal, unbreakable. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Arya squeezed his hand, feeling the pack bonds pulling at her, calling her back to the den where warmth and family and belonging waited. "Yeah," she said, standing and pulling him up with her. "Let's go home." And together, wolf and hunter's daughter, 2 souls, bound by fate and choice and love, they ran into the gathering darkness. toward the future they'd fought so hard to claim. Thank you for watching. See you in the comments section.